Hello, everyone. It's me, Carolyn Chapel, and I am sorry, but I'm going to leave my cameras off on future videos due to the fact I may be writing on the document that I am providing. And you may get shots of other than just my face, and it may be just kind of weird. So I thought it best just to leave them off. Um, but it is still me. And I want to let you know that we are going to start working through um, when we get data, how do we organize it so that we can then go further? Um, we're going to start with taking our data and turning it into graphs and charts. But in this section, this module 5, we're just going to take raw data and learn how to just organize it. So some things to kind of keep in mind. So the thing we're going to learn how to do is create what we call is a frequency table. And the word frequency does mean how many. So we're going to be counting how many are in certain categories or groups, or maybe even just how many of a certain value that we have. So the first thing we have to do is decide, are we going to group our data or are we going to just list our data values individually? Lots of times in the real world, we have huge data sets. So it is much more efficient to kind of group things together. And to do that, we're going to take and calculate the range of our data. Now, we haven't gotten this formula yet, but range of data is actually your highest value minus your lowest value. So we're going to take our highest value and subtract our lowest value. Then what we want to do is take that range and divide it into classes of equal width. Sometimes this will require us to play a little bit with the top and the bottom ends so that we can get a nice number of categories or groupings that have the same width. Once we get that, we will attempt to tally everything or count how many observations are in each of those classes. And then that will be our frequency table. There isn't really a standard as to how many different groupings we should have or how many classes we should create or how wide those classes are. It really depends on the data that you're working with. And after working with data for many years, you will get comfortable as to kind of what you want your graphs to look like. You are the creator of your graphs, so you get to decide what your graph looks like, how many classes you want, and so forth. They do recommend to have, anywhere from 5 to 20 classes. You don't want to have so many classes that there's like one or two in each class. And you don't want to have so few classes that you don't start to see like how things are laying out. We will talk a little bit in a future video as to what I mean by how they lay out and things like that. Um, but right now we're just going to take and create some frequency tables. And also I will have created the classes for us or the groupings for us. And then all we really need to do is go through it and do the counting. So right now we have 25 earthquakes. The Richter scales are as follows. We have these different bounds here. So our strengths we notice in this group is we have a range of like 0.2. The way to calculate the width of that class is not by taking like the end result at 8.6 and subtracting off the 8.5, is but taking the difference in like the first listed number. So like the 8.7 and the 8.5. So when you subtract that, you get a 0.2 width. Another way to think of that is we do have the 0.5 and the 0.6. So there's that 0.2 that I'm talking about. And now what I'm going to do is simply go through my data and I'm going to count how many of each in that category. So first I'm going to go through and I'm going to count the 8.5s and the 8.6s. As I do that, I will probably put a little mark so that I don't miss any and I don't count anything twice. So let's see, we're doing 8.5s and 8.6s. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So what I will do is I will put the number 7 in that count area. And we're going to do the same for the 8.7 and the 8.8. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I have 9 in that category or in that class. We're going to go back and do 8.9 to 9.0. And this also, by marking them, allows me to know how many I have left. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, we're going to do 9.1, 9.2. Let's see, I have none in that first row, but there's a 9.2 and there's another one, so 2 of them. 9.3 to 9.4. And I do not have any in that category. And I'm also looking that I only have 9.5. So there's 0 here and there is 1 there. And it is okay to have 0 in a category. It just tells the reader when you create your graph or your chart or whatever you're going to do, that there was nothing in that category. And it is okay to have an empty class. Sometimes when you get really large data sets, like for me, we just went through and counted, but we could have also made tally marks as we went through the data, jumped around and done that as well. So a lot of times you will start with the tally marks and go from there. Also with technology, there's a nice way to put data into like an Excel spreadsheet or a Google Sheets and then order it and then it's easier to count. So, but that will be coming in a later chapter on how to do that. I'm not going to completely go through this this process again. I feel that most students can grasp pretty quickly, but I do want to let you know that you can have categorical data as well. Um, just a little bit harder to have a range. You can maybe group categories together and list them separately. So here we have the top 25 college football teams, according to the NCAA and their conference. And we could do what conference they came from and make a list that way as well. So again, we could go through this and I'll just pick SEC since it was the first one. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And so if I were making my frequency table, I would have 6 being in that count for the SEC. And I would do that for the other categories as well. One thing you would want to make sure to do when you finish, which I did not do on this one, when I finish calculating the count, is to add them up again, just to make sure we didn't miss any data or we didn't count anything twice. So we were supposed to have 25 earthquakes. So when I add these numbers up, we should get 25. So I'm going to start at the bottom with the smaller numbers. And so 1 and 2 more is 3, plus my 6 gives me 9. 9 and 9 is 18. 18 plus that 7 is 25. So I did not miss anything, nor did I count anything twice. Are times when you do still make mistakes. Maybe you'd count something twice and miss something else. That's why when you're doing these frequency tables, you want to be very careful because a lot of times after this table has been calculated, the data itself is either put somewhere that might be a little bit harder to bring back out or discard it altogether because they're saying, oh, we have it in this format. We don't need it in the raw format anymore. Really depends on what you are going to be doing with that data. So we're going to be taking this data eventually into the next module, and we're going to be creating some graphs. So we'll be creating some bar graphs and some pie charts or circle graphs and other such graphs, but I will save that for another video. So thank you for watching and have a wonderful day.